$100,000 in premium in a month, what were you doing?
Honestly, amazingly, the cheat code is
In today's episode, Courtney and I are sitting down with one-year agent, Big David Witowski, and we're going to be diving into his learning lessons from his first year, his successes. Make sure you stay tuned in the whole time, because at the very end of the episode, or near the end, David's going to ask Courtney and I about how to continue to have consistent production, what his team needs to be doing, what he needs to be holding them accountable to. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we have an amazing guest with us today, one-year insurance agent, David Witowski. David, what's going on?
I'm loving it. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah, man. We are pumped for you. So pumped to have you on. We love talking to all new business owners, all new entrepreneurs. You're a part of Weaver Sales Academy, and you're crushing it as a new agent, man. I mean, just 2 months ago, you hit $100,000 a month within your first month. That is huge. And so that's kind of where I would like to start, is that first year of agency ownership. Of what would you say was, if you can pinpoint, I know there was lots of learning lessons in year one, right? But if you could pinpoint maybe your biggest or the very first learning lesson that comes to your mind right now when you think about it, what was one of your learning lessons in year one? Let's just start the conversation there.
Probably the biggest learning lesson, and something I still struggle with, is delegation. Making sure that I'm not trying to do everything. And I'm a lot better about it now, but I think when you start a business, especially if it's your first, and this is my first business, you want to have your hand in everything. You want to have control, because nobody has as much on the line as you do, right? So I think that was a huge lesson for me to take, was I need to delegate some things out. I need to know what my time is worth, and places where I can put people that I trust to take care of important things, that I can be doing other things, right? Delegation's probably one of the big ones. Yeah.
So let's talk about some specific examples, right? Because as a new agent, new business owner, you're doing everything from probably the service in the beginning, to the sales in the beginning, to the prospecting, to the marketing, to community liaison, to joining the chamber. I mean, you name it, you're doing it. Janitor, errands.
You're also setting everything up. You're coaching. You're monitoring. You're looking.
leading, yeah.
You're looking at your bank balance every 20 minutes. Like these are all real things.
So what it was, 1, 2, 3 things, right? Like, what was, and if you remember this, what's one of the very first things you were like, I'm not going to delegate this, but then you ended up delegating it within year one? Can you remember a specific task or topic you've done?
Yeah. So one of the first things I delegated out was managing my social media. And so I've actually come back to doing some more of that now, because I've been able to delegate other things out. But like social media stuff, right? I had someone part-time taking care of social media. Now she's my customer service manager, and she's amazing at that. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to take this piece back, and I'm going to give you all these other pieces. So chatting in to do service requests, answering the phone as a gatekeeper, to make sure that I'm not just taking all kinds of calls I don't need to be taking right now. And then after I kind of got her running, and she's doing fantastic, I now have someone that I'm training to help me with like call reviews, because that's a big thing, helping me monitor the training that we do with WSA. So he's been on the emails between WSA and myself, making sure to talk to, the producers about, hey, where are we at with our training, things like that. Monitoring reports, where are we doing really well at, right? zip code wise. So we can increase marketing there, decrease in some places. Maybe we're not as competitive. Like all of these things are they're little pieces, right? That would take me maybe 20 minutes to kind of get done in a day. But man, those 20 minutes add up where now I've got hours that I can spend in other places and have been.
So I think it's very interesting that you went from social media to CSR. I've never heard that done, but that makes sense to me. So
Yeah.
was that a position that she asked for, or did you just see her doing really well in that category and said, "Ooh, I have a position for you internally"?
So I had known her kind of acquaintance wise for a while, and she just always had a smile on her face, always seemed to be very positive. And I come from a customer service background. Like, I was a customer service manager for a very large lawn care company for years. Um, and I just recognize that that's my brand, right? Like, that's the kind of person I want answering the phone. Like, she's having a great day, even if it's her worst day. And
Mm.
so, um, I talked her into actually moving across state and working for me, and she's and she's absolutely killing it. Our retention rate is very high, and a lot of that is due to her. So
Okay, I'm gonna drill down on this one because you just said something that a lot of agents are going, wait, you got somebody to move. So I need to know, what was that conversation like? What did you offer her? What was the thing that made her say, yes, I'm willing to take this leap?
so the first thing was when she lived over across state. I met her out there and took her to dinner, and I was like, "Hey, listen, I have this job opportunity." This is before I opened my doors, right? Like, the doors were set to open, and I'm trying to get pieces in place. And I'm like, hey, I was actually thinking about having her come on as a producer. She wasn't, she
Mm-hmm.
wasn't up for that, didn't really want to, be an agent. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, and I just kind of kept that conversation open. So then I was like, well, how do I kind of pull her into doing something for me?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was like, well, what about social media? Like, your social media is good. Like, you think you can handle social media stuff for me? So she's like, yeah. So she came to the office, she took pictures of everyone, um, you know, made some posts. I gave her access to like Facebook and Instagram, and she actually set up my Instagram, set up my Twitter, and all of that stuff. And then I slowly just kind of worked on that sales of like, I I really need someone up front. What is it? And so, like, she has base, salary, but then I also give her a percentage of the commissions that come into the branch as well. So,
Oh, I think this is so good. So actually, it reminds me of a story. We had a friend and she was trying to hire a CTO, so a chief tech officer, and
hmm
she didn't have the capital that she needed to get this person. This person was insanely talented and their base salary was out of her ballpark. She hopped on a plane, she flew up there, she took him to dinner. She's like, "This is what I can offer you. I can't offer you as much money, but she showed I will give you my time." I have goosebumps even saying this because I think sometimes when it comes to talent, we overvalue the salary. And while the salary is important, people want to know that they are working with somebody who cares. And so
yeah,
I have to commend you for that because there's not a lot of people who would say, I will go out, I will drive, fly, crawl 2 states, 10 states to make sure that you know that you're an important person in this business. So I think that is huge. I also think setting it up, it's essentially what we do with salespeople of we have them do a test project before we hire them, or a graphic designer
Hmm.
will have them do a test project. You did this with a whole position. You said, here's social media. How do you take direction? Is she coachable? Does she put out the product that you want? And then you saw all of these things and said, I'm gonna create a position for you. I love
Yeah,
that.
it actually reminds me of our conversation with Luke, and how like he only will convert so he always only hires for the customer management team, right, David? And then
mm,
If they do good on the customer service side of things, then he will promote them to sales if they want it. And his philosophy behind that is the best salespeople are the ones that are best at talking to people, best at relationship building, best at showing up and doing the job. And so before he hires a stone cold, like just salesperson, he actually tries them out a little bit different here, but similar. Like you tested her, right?
Mm-hmm.
She did a great job. You're like, I would love you to be a part of this agency. You're a tremendous fit. You even use the word, she's part of my brand. Like you use that word. You saw that in her. And so I commend you. That's tremendous.
Well, and the Luke that he's referencing writes how many autos a year?
Like
40
6,000, I think.
Yeah, it's something insane. Like,
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, he's the number one producer in his company. Like he crushes, but similar as to what you just did. As a one-year business owner, I wasn't thinking about that, David. Like I give you a ton of credit. Like I was just like, what do we need? What do we need now? I just need butts and seats to make dollar, right? Like I'm over here scrambling just to get people. I wasn't worried necessarily about do they fit my brand or not.
Yeah. So I want to dial in a little bit to the position that you have as like the sales manager with the call reviews. You're monitoring the training, the marketing, the zip codes. What does your cadence look like or your communication with this person? How often are you meeting, and what do those conversations sound like?
So it's kind of been a process as with anything, right? So for a while I was doing one-on-ones maybe once a month with the staff, and now after, watching the Weaver Sales Academy and just, some of the trainings that we've had, I'm like, okay, I should be doing weekly one-on-ones with people. So I meet weekly with every staff that I have for most weeks, right? Like in some weeks there are just crazy things that are happening. We miss a one-on-one. Hey, we'll get you next week, whatnot. But I meet with my staff a lot. We have a morning meeting, we have a noon meeting. I'm like, hey, get your lunch, get your snacks, whatever it is. At noon, we're meeting, and we'll do product knowledge workshops. We'll do just some different things around noontime. Hey, what are we doing to set up our afternoon? Conversation, stuff like that. But as far as he goes, like I'm constantly talking with him. We have a communication channel set up for all the staff where they're all constantly communicating. Hey, I'm going to be off inbound calls for a bit. I'm taking care of my training. Or hey, I've got a appointment at 2 p.m. It's probably going to be a long one. Looking at 5 different lines of business. Like, so as far as he goes, like we're communicating constantly. And he's just shown that even through having these additional tasks, he's able to stay a solid producer as well. And that was really important to me, is like, I don't want to steal my most solid producer and give him too much to the point where now I'm struggling, right? To have him hit those numbers. A little dip is okay, but that's because he's learning to do new things. And so it's kind of in that range of expectations. Like, okay, I want to start slow, give you these couple little tasks to take care of for me. And then at that point, we're going to increase those. But through that, his numbers have to stay solid. So if I was going to see a dip, and I haven't, but luckily, if I was going to see one, I wanted to be able to reverse course and fix that as soon as possible. So we've added one thing at a time, and just kept kind of close communication on that.
So good. So I want to go back. We talked about like the lessons, and we all can agree your first year is like a blur. I would be curious, what's something that you made a big deal that seemed like it was the end of the world in your first year that looking back, you're like, that wasn't that big of a deal?
That's a great question.
It is, because when you're in it,
When you're
like,
in it, you're
oh,
in it, baby.
My God,
Yep, you think it's
this is it.
Yep.
This is it. The bottom's falling out now. And then you look back and you're like, whoa, that was nothing.
Why did I lose my shit over
that? So many things, like even losing your first employee, right? Like, I mean, that is one of the hardest things for me still. And I know that I don't know anyone that owns business that hasn't held on to someone for too long. And I'm very much like a people person first, which is why when I got into insurance, it just clicked for me. Um, but that is one of the lessons like, hey, like the sky isn't going to fall because you have to let someone go, even or they leave or whatever. Um, which that was a hard one, even to just let someone go, right? Like,
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
um, it's like I spent all this time and I question myself always. So like I take extreme ownership. Accountability is huge for me. So if something's not going right, it's first like, what am I doing that's not right? It's not, oh, well, you're not doing this, that, or the other thing. So if I have to have a conversation with someone about, hey, you're not doing this thing that I need you to be doing, I've already had that conversation with myself 5, 6 times, right? So um, that was a big one for me. Lead quality is, one that I was like struggling with for a little bit. Um, Also, like return on investment and ROAS are things I'm getting back into now. I think I focused too much on them at first, where it was like, really, I need to bring dollars in, right? I need to bring policies in. I need to make sure my retention is good, and those things are going to work themselves out as long as I'm not just com completely blowing the budget, right? Like,
Mhm.
Yep.
um, they're important things, but they're not as important as sales are. Like at the end of the day, that's the most important thing that we do is selling and retaining customers. As far as the bottom line goes. So yeah, some of that stuff I think is it, they were some of my biggest challenges. I still deal with the challenge of holding on to people for too long sometimes for sure. But
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's always been a struggle of mine as well, David. So, or a struggle of ours, but I can relate. You said something there though. You said a few things. So I can number one appreciate that you even have your eyes on a ROAS because when I was a new agent, I didn't know shit. I didn't know what that meant. I was just like, just sell, just make some money. We need some
yeah,
revenue, take care of our customers because sales cures all, in my opinion.
Let me
Sarah
clarify.
Spears all.
If you're listening, ROAS is return on ad spend.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
yes.
carry on.
So I didn't even know what that meant, right? So now I do. But I love that you're even paying attention to that. Lead quality is one of those things, as you know, like it's like you measure it. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't, it's like we got to go to another person, and then it's like every 60 to 90-day thing. I feel like depending
Yep.
on what lead provider you're going with, but the letting people go is a that's a tough one. So I would ask you when you go back to your first person you had to let go, what actually, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
After you let them go, was it a sense of relief when the conversation was done?
Yeah, so the first one um ended up giving me an ultimatum. And so I struggled with that for a little bit because obviously there's a little bit of it was unfair ultimatum to begin with. And I'm a pretty reasonable, laid back guy. Like it takes a lot to get under my skin. And so I had to deal with that part of it first, right? Like I had to calm myself down and really look at it. And then I accepted the resignation. Um, and afterwards, it was a relief. I mean, there had been some issues, kind of bubbling up to that point that I'm scrambling to deal with while I'm dropping, other plates. And it was a relief to be able to say, okay, like that is no longer one of the problems that I have, right? Like as a disgruntled employee. Um, so it definitely was a relief once it was all over.
Yeah, I just ask you that because in I still remember the first person I ever had to let go, and I lost so much sleep and I thought about it so much. And just like you, I'm like, is there anything else I can do? Like, is there anything
Yeah.
specifically I can do to where this relationship just doesn't have to end? And I remember having the conversation and he walked out the front door and I just felt like this huge sense of relief of like, ah, thank God the conversation's over. And Thank goodness he's not part of the business anymore, right? Because it wasn't a good fit for him. It wasn't a good fit for us. But we work up all these. I don't know about you. I'm talking about myself here, but I work up all these different like scenarios in my head of what's going to happen, and it's like the best case scenario happened, and the best case scenario has happened just about every time in anyone I've had to let go. And not that it is ever an easy conversation, but I will tell you with time, it does get easier and it does get better.
Yeah, because I think with time, you learn to pick up on cues of somebody telling you that they don't want to be there without actually saying that. You start to pay attention to their behaviors and their patterns, and you're like, I need to make a decision for them because this is not a right fit. And I think the thing I see in insurance a lot is we move from position to position. So we'll shift from like, well, maybe they're not right for this position, or maybe they're not right for this position, or we do this incestuous thing where we just rehome them in other agencies, and we're like, we're just going to shove them over here and try to make it work. And sometimes we just have to accept the fact that this isn't for them. Like this, they're
Yeah.
not in the right industry, because insurance, as boring as it appears to the outside world, is an emotional roller coaster. I tell everyone I see that starts to say anything about insurance agents, I'm like, go spend 1 hour in your insurance agent's office and you will have a completely different level of respect. The emotional, the physical, the financial stress that insurance agents have to bear every single day, every single phone call. And that's not for everyone. And we have to accept that fact that some people don't have the system for that. They don't want to. They don't want to regulate their emotions like that every single day. So all that to say, it's usually a
I
good thing.
think that's, yeah, I mean, you really kind of hit the nail on the head there. It's not for everyone. And I think that if you try to hold on to someone too long, you're really doing them a disservice as well, which has made it a bit easier to just have those conversations because it's like not everyone can, force themselves to make 100+ calls every day, and deal with people not answering the phone or hanging up on you or whatever it might be, right? Not everyone is built for long form conversations, where you have to get to know different people every single day, right? So, yeah, I think, and that was a big thing for, the second person I had to let go. Is just it wasn't for him. Like it was no hard feelings or anything like that. I could see that it was actually wearing on him mentally, and it didn't make the conversation easy, kind of like you said, Michael, but it did make it easier where it's like, this is not personal whatsoever. Like, I think you're a great guy, but like, this is just not for you. Like, I see you getting, down on yourself when people don't answer the phone, and then you start kind of just showing up to work late and, stuff like that starts to happen. And it's like, I just know that this is not making you happy, and it's you have to go find that thing because like that was a big learning process for me because when I became a producer, this was for me. This is like it clicked. This is the best job I've ever had, right? Like everything was so easy. The conversations just roll, and the sales came in, and it was easy for me. And so when I became the owner, I thought this is just an easy thing for people to pick up on. And was I wrong? It's not for everyone. Like it's something that you either have or you don't sometimes.
Oh my gosh, I remember. So before we opened agency, Michael had already been in insurance for 5 years at this point. And we're getting ready to open agency, and I was studying for all the tests. And I remember looking at him and going, I don't think this is English. He's like, it's okay. It's fine. I'm like, no, no, no. I genuinely don't know that I can say these words back to people because there is such a skill set that you have to learn. I want to jump into, you pulled some numbers and you were
Yeah.
looking at your first year. I'm curious, when you look at those, are there any indicators of where you crushed it? Can you see trends of the things that you're like, ooh, this really worked? Because somebody listening right now wants your cheat code. They want to know, okay, you wrote 100,000 in premium in a month. What were you doing?
Honestly, amazingly, the cheat code is relationships. That's my best advice to anybody. And it's anywhere that you can have a relationship with someone you do business with, you should have a good one. So like my vendors, if I have a vendor that has a representative that I work with that is good, I'm more likely to work with them more, and they're more likely to help me get to where I want to be. So relationships with vendors, relationships with my employees, like um, it, it, I constantly tell them, and I've set up my pay structure, I've set everything up where this can be our agency. This is going to be our brand. This is going to be our folio. Like none of this is, it's the David Witowski agency, but at the end of the day, this is our work that we are putting into it. So it's our agency and we can do these great things. So I think that's been really where I've done my best work is just creating those relationships that are important that move the needle. But I mean, by the first year, we had 926 policies in force, which fell a little short for where I wanted to be, but I am pretty ambitious. um, I always set my goals really high, but I mean, we had a retention rate of 97%. Um, that was that was for the last month of the year. Our year to date was 91.4%. Um, so, and then overall
Woo.
the rolling 12, yeah, we were just under 90. So, um, our retention rate is really high. We're pushing the district and the state, in the district that is pushing the entire country in performance. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
sit and watch big names, like Ben Smith and Ryan Underhill on your podcast, and I'm like, that's where I want to be. Like, that's where I'm pushing to be, right? So, and then I see these numbers, and I'm like, okay, my retention is great, meaning that I'm building that asset the correct way. It's
Yep.
going to
Hmm.
be, it's going to be done the right way, and everything we add, I don't have to worry about it going right out the back door. So, yeah, those are some numbers, I guess, that stand out to me where I wanted to be at 1,000 policies in force in the first year. Fell a little bit short of that, but the retention rate was really high, so that's been really cool to see.
David, it's taking everything I have not to do the Ric Flair woo over here, baby. Like, man, woo! All right, I'm gonna do it anyways, right? Like, dang, like,
If you're not watching the podcast, Michael is literally like hanging on the edge of his
oh
seat because he's
shit!
so excited right
I'm
now.
so excited because the things that you just talked about in the business age that we're in, relationships is the number one superpower that you can have as a business owner, entrepreneur, specifically the insurance industry. Because by you building relationships, that's automatically going to equate to number one, bigger households, long term clients. And that's how you're paid, right? Insurance is a residual income business. And so many times, and it, part of this is carriers, but they push so hard that it's turned into a transactional selling business. And it's cool to write really big premium, but it sucks when 50, 60, 70% is going out the back door. That's not a sustainable business model. That equates more stress, more headaches, more turnover. And so just your business acumen, David, like I want to give you
Yeah.
credit. Your business acumen is extremely high. Like in your first year as an agent, you say your superpower is relationships, and that is the key to success in business. And I would number one, applaud that and say, hell
Thank
yeah,
you, thank
double
you.
down on that. And if you double down on that, you're never going to have to worry about success ever in your career because it's going to come with the relationships that you build.
Well, and you're not just saying it, your customers are saying it too. We can't forget that people vote with dollars. This is
Hmm.
how we make choices. And so if they are staying, they are saying, yes, I am voting for this kind of service. And I think in an age where most of us are selling the same thing that the guy down the street is selling or across the road or in the next town, and to our consumers, they don't know any different. I think service is our competitive edge. And I think everyone has this, I have the best service in the state, nation, city, whatever. Put your money where your mouth is. And the
Hmm.
thing that I keep hearing, and I'm like writing it down because you keep talking about your brand. You use words like we, not I, our, not mine. So you're very much a leader. Like I can already tell that. But you also have
Thank you.
this mindset of if something is worth doing, it's worth doing well. Like, I can hear it. Like, if you're going to show up and take care of somebody, you're going to take care of somebody. And that is a smart business strategy. You can call it whatever you want to, but that is smart business. And your numbers are telling you that.
Yeah, I really do believe in taking care of people. I've always been the person that people lean on if they need something. Hey, we're gonna call Dave and he's gonna, help because that's just who I've always been. And so that's one of the reasons I think that insurance really clicked for me because this is taking care of people in their worst time. And I've expressed that to my staff. Like, we are not chasing policies to sell the cheapest policy. I have turned policies away because I cannot protect you where you need to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
Your policy is a better policy right now than what I can write you. And whether that be because the market changed and things like that, it is what it is. But like most of my clients are in the surrounding area where I'm at. And I refuse to write a bad policy for one of these people that, anyone, but, especially those people right around me where it's like, I'm in the community, I'm part of the, downtown development authority in town. And my kids go to school here. And when I open my business here, everyone knows Big Dave is opening his own insurance agency in town, and like, and you've got those people that waited until I was in business for a little while. You've got those people that couldn't wait to come in and talk to me. And um, it just your name and your word means something. And like that's why we started pushing for those Google reviews. Like even if we don't do business with you, how has your experience been? Do you feel like we did our best? Like, do you feel like we really listened to you? And like the mission statement for the company is we are here to give our clients informed decisions about their insurance. Before I became an agent, I had no idea what PIP was, what is the difference between broad form and standard collision? And when does it not make sense for me to have full coverage on a vehicle? Like these sorts of things. And I think that's a disservice because if you're just selling a policy, if you're just putting a policy in front of someone and getting them to sign on price, how long can those people stick around, right? Until they find the cheaper price. But it's like if somebody understands, and I'm this way, if I understand the value in something, I'm going to then spend my money on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want things that aren't valuable, right? Like I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars on something that doesn't bring me or my family value. So just explain to people what these parts of insurance do for them and how they're going to help them in certain situations. Like it's been a huge boon to that retention percentage.
No wonder we get along so well. No, man. Oh,
can
shit.
I interject before we go into this? The Big Dave comment, you need to run with that from a marketing standpoint. Call Big Dave. I'm telling you right now, there's something there. You can make like the cartoon superhero out of that. Take it, run with it. That's free. You can have that one.
I love that. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
actually will.
Yeah.
You should.
You should.
Big Dave Witowski, baby. Let's do
Call
it.
Big Dave.
Dave, this is I could go off on so many different routes with everything that you just said. But all I need to do is just say, man, you keep doing what you're doing. This is fantastic. I don't care if you're a 15-year agent right now or you're brand new getting into the business. What you are talking about is what matters. It's getting back to the basics and taking care of people. You're talking about education and empowerment. Educating and empowering your clients so that they can make decisions that they believe is in the best interest of them. Not that every single person will close after your conversation, but at least they're going to be better informed. And I can guarantee you a majority of them are going with you because they're more informed, more educated, and more empowered than they were prior. And that ultimately eliminates a lot of the price objections that they see in today's market when 99% of insurance salespeople, when you call them to get a quote, they say, I've got your quote put together for you. It's $225 a month. What do you think about that? Well, what the shit am I buying?
Right.
Shit.
Well, you're more expensive. or you're cheaper. I'm going to keep shopping around. Like, that is not a conversation. That is not somebody that's even going to be in the business in the next 3 to 5 years. So not only are you taking care of your customers, David, but you are doing what's necessary to make sure that you are still relevant in your customers' lives 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now. Man, this is awesome. You got any last words?
I do, because we talked a lot about success, but I always like to be able to provide some kind of value to you if there's something that you're struggling with. So if you could pinpoint right now the thing that's keeping you up at night or the biggest pain point that you're having in your agency, let's talk through it.
The biggest pain point I think I have is, and you all are already helping with it with the Weaver Sales Academy, but I think my biggest pain point is just the consistency for my producers, right? Like, um, and I have another interview this week. I think that I need to be getting more proteges in, through farmers. Like, that's going to be huge for my agency. But I think, where is it? Like, can you tell me something you did to increase the consistency in production for your producers?
Yep. So when you say overall production,
Yeah, like, so what I've kind of noticed is that when I put my finger on something, right? Like, hey, I very much believe, like, if I'm going to fix a problem, I need to focus on that problem and I need to make it a point. Like, we have to fix this problem. So we weren't selling enough homes. So I made sure that we did product knowledge workshop. I ran through home policies. This is what every single piece of a home insurance policy, every option, every rider, this is what they do. And these are things that, these are the important ones that we touch base on before we even run a quote at first, right?
Yep.
And then here are the ones that you need to talk to after you get an initial quote done, right? You need to offer these things to them and explain them. So we did that. And then life insurance, right? It's a huge part. And we've been part of the 30 and 5 and all that stuff. So this last folio, I started a competition with another first year agent. We have basically the same agency almost is set up. And I was like, hey, let's have a perpetual trophy where one folio every quarter, we're going to compete on something that both of our agencies need to improve in. So we chose life. Life was a big part that we needed to improve in. And we have really come through this folio. I think we have 7 policies on the folio, issued and paid, and we have about 3 or 4 more apps out there right now. So that's a big uptick from where I was scrambling last quarter to meet those lines that I needed to meet. So it's just consistency overall. And like, once you fix a problem, how do you make sure that problem doesn't backtrack, right?
Yep. This is a great question, David, and we could go into a lot, but I'm gonna give just a couple here. So the number one thing that I believe moves the needle in your business is quotes. And what I mean by quotes is conversation. So a fatal error that I made in the first really 18 to 24 months of my business career was I was holding the team accountable to calls. All right. Every single day, every single person was responsible for 150 calls a day because I bought into sales as a mathematical equation. And while you can do a mathematical equation, and that's on any product line, PNC, life, health, like you talk to enough people, you give enough like quotes out, right? And I'm going to air quote quotes. Eventually you're going to close somebody. The problem the mathematical equation doesn't factor in is the emotional responses of your team and the team burnout, the team turnover, the stress, the clientele. So I made a change to where I was holding my team accountable to 3 quotes a day. And this is you asked me consistency. This is what ensures consistency. And I defined what a quote was. So I defined that a quote was getting them on the phone, building rapport, having a discovery conversation, presenting a plan that was more coverages and more policies, and asking for the sell 3 times. And I did that on PNC and I did that on life, meaning that every single day my team had to have a multi-line sales conversation with a new prospect, minimum of 3 new prospects a day. So if you quoted somebody that's ineligible, that's not a quote. If you don't present and ask for the sell, then that's not a quote. Like, you actually have to be presenting, educating, empowering, asking for the sell. And that quick little simple thing of you have to do 3 of those a day and 3 life conversations a day or 3 life quotes a day, that is what took care of my consistency issue, and it put the focus where the focus was most important, and that's having conversations that actually matter, that move the dial. And Auto Fire Life just happens to be what I consider the 3 Kingsmen, right? If you can get really good at the 3 Kingsmen, you're going to be totally cool. And I love the fact that you're the cherry on top with the gamification. So most salespeople are competitive. So when you have the consistent process of here's what you have to do every day. So like in your case, you could do 3 PNC quotes a day, 3 life quotes a day, and 3 Google reviews a day. That's a complete day. I like holding people accountable to 3 things a day every single day to make it really easy, clarity, achievable, attainable. Then when you factor in gamification, like the competition with the other agent, or what we would typically do is monthly bonuses where, okay, this month we're focused on P&C. If we write 100 cars this month, everybody gets $1,000, for example, or we write 20 life this month, everybody gets $1,000. So I believe that the consistent process of conversations teamed up with some type of gamification that makes your team focused on one product line is an equation for success and consistency. It's just it's our standard of success.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a slightly different answer than what Michael gave too, which I love your answer. We actually do this. We did this morning. It's Monday. We sit down and we review our week and we set our priorities. So I look at the sales process as leads, training, conversation, and then the close. And all of those can be measured. You can measure every single one of those points. But the thing that you have to make sure that you have at every single one of those points of leads, training, conversation, and close are standards and then accountability checkpoints. So all of those need to be monitored. The thing that I see happen so much is that you pick one and you obsess over it. If you're going to obsess over any of them, it is the conversation, like what Michael said. So I would go back to, it's really hard to track and measure if you want consistent production. That's the end result. You have to work backwards and say, are we being consistent with our leads? Are we being consistent with our training? Are we being consistent with our conversations? And are we being consistent in asking for the sale? And that will tell you where you're lacking consistency.
Yep.
All of those have to be consistent on the front end before you're ever going to spit out consistent production on the back end. And it's your job as a leader to go in and say, first of all, what are the standards? What are the standards of my leads? What's the standard of my training? What's the standard of my conversation? What's the standard of my closing? And then how do I hold them accountable to that? So mine is a bigger answer, but I think if you're going to pick anything, obviously we're going to say pick the conversation and training, because those are the instant. Like, you could take your entire book of business right now, not invest $1 into a lead, and start calling them and have a better conversation, and you're immediately going to have an ROI.
Umbrellas, life insurance.
Yeah.
Like, name
So
it. Like,
I would focus there. And then as the leader, remember that your job is to keep everyone on task, to keep them focused, to put the guardrails up and be like, okay, no, redirect here, because in insurance, there's 175 million products that you can sell. There's pet products, there's disability products, there's life products, there's home, like all different things. So what are we actually focused on? I'm going to reiterate what Michael said, the 3 Kingsmen, Auto Fire Life. Always. Everything jumps off from there, but that's the point that you start at. Is that helpful?
does it help?
Yeah, no, I love that for sure. And that's I'll be reading quote 3 again. I've already read through it once, which I love that. And I think that is more of my focus. Like, the keeping call numbers is there because I'm like, hey, like, you
Yep.
can't have conversations if you're not making calls,
Yep.
right? But the conversation piece is so important. I actually have a channel in my communications. It's life conversations, and then there's just conversations around P&C too. So, and what I've noticed is the ones that post, in those channels, hey, here are my conversations, here are my life conversations. Hey, the guy who's posting most in life conversations sold the most life. Go figure, right?
Yep. Yeah, the big calls are part of sales. And the thing that I found, though, is I was forcing them to make 150 calls a day, and they were so focused on getting the calls done that
Yeah.
they weren't concerned with taking the answer and converting to a quote, or they didn't want to give the quote time because they wanted to get back to making the calls. And I was just like, holy shit, y'all are missing the point here. Like, the point of the calls is to get somebody on the phone to have a meaningful conversation, to turn them into a paying customer, not to just make 150 calls a day and be like, well, I succeeded today. See you later. Like, and that was one of my aha moments. So calls have to be a part of this. And I know a lot of agents do like a either or, like you either have to make 100 calls to win your day, or you have to get 3 quotes or 5, right? So there's that either or. I just went to the main focal point of, I know that 3 quotes on an amateur rookie cold caller is going to take about 100 calls a day, because those were the leads we were working back in the day. We're all cold calls, just phone numbers and names, right, and addresses. And I knew, so they're roughly going to be making 75 to 100 calls a day. I'm cool with that. Ultimately, you just have to get your 3 quotes in with 3 ideal customers that are eligible, that are answering for the or that are eligible, because we carried roughly a 31 to 33% closing rate our entire agency career. So I knew that if they talked to 3 eligible pieces of PNC business, we were closing 1 household a day that equated to 3 policies, 2 auto and a fire at a minimum. That is a 60 app a month producer. And that's all I was trying to get to. Like, that got me to my premium, that got me to my apps. You start 3 times 2 times 3 times 4. Well, now you're pushing 200 policies plus a month every month. And so that was the mathematical equation I went to. So hopefully that helps, man.
No, yeah, that's great. I really do appreciate that. And I think talk time is way more important than actual number of calls made, right? So, no, that's really good.
One thing, like, I wish I'd have known this sooner in my career. If I would have started, so my rule was always 100, 300 or more coverage. If you held your team accountable to having an umbrella conversation with every customer, you're automatically going to see a higher conversion rate of bigger households.
Yeah. So you're saying,
Yeah,
if you had to do this over again, you would set 255 as the limit with an umbrella, or would you set 131 still, but they would have to have an umbrella conversation?
No, so with the carrier we rep, so some carriers you can carry lower limits.
Okay.
So with the carrier we were with, I would hold them accountable to 255 with an umbrella on every single conversation.
Yeah, so I do have, like, we start our quotes at 250, 500. Like, unless, their prior insurance is at 500, then
Right.
we start there, right? Like,
Yep.
we never start lower, like, never do that. But we always start at 250, 500 for a number of reasons. One, it's good coverage, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
2, we have a place to walk back from that is not state minimum. Like, I don't want to write state minimum policies. I've told all of my staff this. Like, we're not here to write the cheapest policies out there, and those are not our target customers. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes we write those policies, but we work really hard to try not to. We try to write policies that if someone is in an accident, it's going to protect them. It's going to protect them. It's going to protect their family, whether they need, medical care or someone sues them and tries to go after their assets. Like, we are writing policies to protect people, and that's what we start with and where we want to end at.
And from a CYA perspective,
Yeah.
if they are getting sued, you know who they're coming after. They're coming after the professional that underinsured them in the first place and didn't have the
Exactly.
right conversation up front. Yeah. So, dude, this has been fantastic.
Amazing.
I feel like we could keep this rocking and rolling, David. This has been so good, brother. You mentioned something about your social media. So if somebody wanted to, like, follow you, see what you're doing, maybe connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that on social media?
Yeah, so it's the David Witoski Agency, Farmers Insurance on Facebook. It's TDW Agency on YouTube, Witoski Agency on Instagram, 517-293-3330 if you want to give us a call. So
Let's go.
we're waiting. Let's go.
Let's go. Big Dave in the house. I have a
Big
feeling
Dave!
we're going to see some branding changes. I can't wait to see it. Dave, thank you so much again. I appreciate you so much. This has been fantastic. For all of those of you who are tuning in today, thank you as always. We appreciate you. Time and attention are by far our most important assets. We just don't say that. We mean it. And we appreciate you, your support, you tuning in regardless of where you're tuning in from. So thank you. Go out, make it great. David, thanks again, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me.